Welcome everyone to the final round of the FIDE Chess Olympiad 2024. We have on our screen the golden boy of Indian chess, Gukesh. India is very close to the gold medal, but just need to make sure that they do not lose the final round at the Olympiad. And for that, Gukesh has the black pieces against Slovenia. Vladimir Fedoseev is on the top board, and you can see all the journalists on the left wanting to catch a glimpse of Gukesh. After all, he is the world championship challenger and has played amazingly well at the Olympiad here. Gukesh, as always, takes his time before the game begins and adjusts all his pieces. The way he does it is he kind of touches the piece, puts it right in the center of the square, and really it's a ritual which brings him in the right mindset before the game. You can see him carefully turning all his pieces. The knights look straight. Actually it's sideways, and then the pawns are all placed well. Gukesh has definitely performed amazingly well. He's started with a rating of 2764, now has raced up to 2790, but his opponent has been in tremendous form as well. Vladimir Fedoseev, who comes in here, has beaten Magnus Carlsen in this tournament, and they have a shake of hand and the game begins. What will be Fedosev's first move? d4, played by the Slovenian GM here. He was Russian, like representing Russia, but now represents Slovenia. Knight f6 by Gukesh, and Fedoseev plays the London system. This is going to be very exciting because London is becoming more and more popular at the top level. And what is Gukesh's response going to be? He chooses the most solid one. He puts his pawn to d5, and Fedoseev plays his pawn to e3. Multiple ways to continue now. You can strike in the center with c5. That's exactly what Gukesh does, keeping the bishop's path open just in case it is needed. Knight comes out to f3, and now you can bring out your knight. You can even bring out your bishop to pin the knight here. Yes, plays his knight to c6, and Fedoseev plays his knight to d2. Black can go for the sharp lines with queen b6 now, but bishop g4 makes a lot of sense. Just putting the bishop here, pinning the knight. Later on you want to go e6. Fedoseev just calmly puts his pawn on c3, and Gukesh plays his pawn to e6. And now the queen goes to a4. A slightly weird move, but you can see the knight is now no longer pinned. He's pinned this knight, and the knight wants to jump into the center. Black goes knight d7, breaking the pin, and also just very useful there. Bishop b5, trying to pin further, trying to put pressure here. If you go rook c8, you have the worry that takes, and the a7 pawn would be hanging. So Gukesh goes queen c8, defending the knight here. And Fedoseev now plays his rook to c1. How is Gukesh going to continue? Here is the question. He plays his pawn to a6. And this position has not been reached before in Masters games. Bishop takes c6. And it seems logical to take back with the queen. He takes with the queen, offering a trade of queens. Does white want to do it? Yes, he does. Queen takes c6, b takes c6, and black seems to have no real problems out of the opening. He has the bishop pair here, a strong center, but maybe Fedoseev's idea is to play c4 here and make use of the slight lead in development that he has in the position. Maybe threatening to take on d5, then threatening to take on c5, f6. I absolutely love and adore this move. You can't go to e5 with your knight. The other problem is g5, h5 starts the kingside expansion. Fedoseev goes knight b3, trying to put pressure on c5. But you know what? Gukesh's understanding of such positions is very, very amazing. He also understands that the knight wants to go to a5 and pushes his pawn to a5. Now the point here to note is that after knight c5, you can take with the bishop, pawn takes, and then push e5. You may not even want to win this pawn back. So this is a recurring theme here. He goes h3. Gukesh can take, but decides to go bishop to f5, moving his bishop backwards. And somehow white needs to clarify the situation here with something like cd, knight c5, maybe knight c5, dc, and e5, when black has excellent compensation. But instead he goes king e2, and now Gukesh pushes the knight away. He is forcing Fedoseev to take on c5, but Fedoseev says no, I don't want to. But now his position starts to get really wobbly, because Gukesh not only has space, but he starts expanding on the king side as well with h5. Beautiful move there by him. He goes bishop g3. Is it time to even push g5 here? G5. But first he goes bishop e7, trying to get his rooks connected. Next move maybe king f7. Rook to c3 played here by Fedoseev. He's trying to double up his rooks. You will see that this entire tension in the center can get really very, very intense for someone, but not for Gukesh. He understands that it is in his favor, and if white takes either of the pawns, it's good for him. So rook h to c1, and Gukesh brings his rook to c8. Amazing accuracy shown here by Gukesh, playing just amazing chess like a top GM here. He takes the pawn on c5, and now you can take it with the bishop, you can take it with the knight, but Gukesh says I don't want it. He pushes his pawn to e5, just limiting all of the white pieces. Pawn takes, and now Fedoseev has a very strong passer, you can say, which is even going to move further as he pushes forward with c6. But I think Gukesh has understood that the value of this central pawns is way higher than his opponent's c6 pawn. a3 played here, just trying to stop bishop b4 ideas. But now rook a5, another classy move here by Gukesh, just improving his rook's position. And Fedoseev now plays his knight back to e1, but also just rook b5 now, trying to attack the b2 pawn. There can be a d4 break also in the air. Maybe not so soon, because after take rook f3, the bishop opens up, and this is not what you want. So goes rook b5, fantastic move attacking here. Knight jumps to d3, wanting to defend this pawn. But now you can see the knight has blocked the rook's path, and d4 is going to be super strong. Let's see if Gukesh manages to find this very, very good move. And he finds it. Beautiful move here. And now let's say you move the rook. There is already e4 and d3 coming in. So takes on d4. But now after pawn takes, it will simply open up the e file here in the position, and this knight is shaky. Fedoseev is almost lost here. Rook c2, and let's see if Gukesh can find this move. Rook e8, which is an amazing move. Amazing move here. He finds it. Rook e8. My goodness, what an amazing bit of play here by Gukesh. His understanding is tremendous. He understands that the pawn on c6 doesn't matter. It's all these pieces which matter here. And now rook to b3, putting pressure with the bishop and the rook. Knight comes back to e1 again. He puts his knight back there. And well, maybe bishop b4 check is a very powerful move. Finds it again. What a game here by Gukesh. What a game. He's just amazingly accurate. King f1. But what's your plan if I just take on e1? Because if you take with the rook, then the d3 knight hangs. If you take with the knight, I can win the exchange on c2. Bishop takes e1. He takes back with the knight. And now bishop takes on c2. Brilliant chess here by Gukesh. Now rook takes c2. Takes on, oh, he takes with the knight. But isn't now the b2 pawn hanging? Well, he wants to take the d4 pawn. So Gukesh just pushes the pawn forward with d3. Knight jumps to e3. And he takes the pawn on b2. Slowly but surely, it's all ending up in black's favor. c7 played by Fedoseev. Just this pawn could become very dangerous. And Gukesh has to remain careful. He just brings his knight backwards. Knight c8 to block that pawn, to have no problems. h4 played by Fedoseev. He saw nothing better than that. And now rook a2 to attack the pawn on a3. Bishop comes to f4. And I think it's time for another pawn to bite the dust there. Rook takes a3 played here by Gukesh. And he's just now a pawn down along with exchange down. g3 played by Fedoseev. It's interesting to see how Gukesh is going to finish this off. Rook b3. He's actually planning to just push the a pawn down the board. One move at a time is how he's looking at this. Fedoseev plays knight to c4. Maybe looking at a check here. And rook e6 stops all these ideas of knight check. Fedoseev comes back to d2 now, trying to blockade the pawn. But now rook b2 looks good. So rook b2 is on the board. He brings rook to c3. And rook comes to a6, threatening the a pawn down the board. The rook tries to block it. Rook to c2 played. And after knight e4 is most likely the idea now. He plays here. Maybe some thoughts of knight d6 check if it works out. But the rook is so firmly placed behind the passed pawn that there is no way that it's going ahead. Finds another accurate good move, king g6. The accuracy with which Gukesh is converting this position, it just shows what good form he is in. King g2. Now knight to e7 played. And now his plan is to come to d5 and win this pawn. So king f3. And he goes knight d5. The best move in the position. He plays his knight to c3. Very interesting move. Because if you take knight takes c3, he wants to queen here and win the game. But Gukesh takes the pawn. Bishop takes c7. And now rook c6. Does that do the job? No, d2 is the idea. Wow, what a move here. It's rook takes c3, rook takes c3, d1 is the threat. So the king comes in. But can we now go for a check on e6? Yes, he gives a check, but king d1. It's still king d1. Could be possible, yes. Now Gukesh must remain careful. He goes rook b2, threatening rook e1 mate. And his opponent resigns here. There is just no way to stop this from happening. What a win here by Gukesh, playing a game with almost 100% accuracy there. Really loved the way in which he beat such a strong player like Vladimir Fedoseev without giving him any real chance. And with this, Gukesh moves to a score of 9 out of 10 in this tournament with 2 draws, 8 wins, a performance of about 3050, gaining 30 elo points. 2794 is his live rating, and he also wins an individual gold, helping Team India to also win a team gold. What an unbelievable performance by this youngster in Budapest right before the World Championship match. Just goes to show how good this youngster is.